Resuming debate, the member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues. It's an honor and a privilege to stand today for the first time in this historic chamber as the Member of Parliament for Vaughan Woodbridge. As I'm sure was the case for members on all sides of the aisle, I was in awe when I first took my seat here, a symbol that's at the core of our democracy. This House has echoed with the debates that have shaped our nation, from the early debates around national policy to the conscription crisis of 1917, the debates surrounding pipelines in '56, the Canadian flag, and free trade. And I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that feeling of awe is instantly met with an understanding of the responsibility that one has to the constituents in the communities that they represent. To the residents of Vaughan Woodbridge, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for entrusting me to be your representative in this chamber. This seat in the House belongs to you. Our community is a vibrant riding where nearly half our residents proudly claim Italian heritage, making our community one of the largest Italian hubs in the nation. Our riding is also made up of growing populations of Vietnamese, Punjabi, Chinese, and many others, a truly diverse community. From the thriving small businesses on Woodbridge Avenue in Weston Downs to the quiet streets of Islington Woods, the growing neighbourhoods of Vellore, to the cultural vibrant festivals that light up our summers, Vaughan Woodbridge is a testament to the enduring Canadian values of faith, family, community, and hard work. I'm committed to being your champion and giving life to your hopes inside this chamber. I would like to recognize the most important person in my life, my wife Maria. Her love and strength hold our family together, raising our beautiful daughters, Abigail and Hannah, and our newborn son, James. As members of this House are well aware, our spouses play a critical role in our work as parliamentarians. They bear an unseen burden of public life, and Maria does so with grace. I would like to thank my parents, Debbie and Bruno, for their example of always being the adults in the room and for teaching me the importance of responsibility. To my late grandfather, Nico, for hard work, persistence, and for teaching me to always be self-reliant. My grandparents immigrated from Treviso, Italy in the 1950s. They chose Canada, a land of opportunity where one could dare to dream. They worked hard and made this country their own. I'm very proud of my Italian heritage. And to every single volunteer of my campaign team, I would like to express my deepest gratitude for your monumental effort and commitment to the principles of our party, a commitment that helped deliver a very decisive victory. Mr. Speaker, those principles teach us that government's role is not to burden but to enable. Yet for nearly a decade, excessive regulation, wasteful spending, and punitive taxes have stifled economic opportunity and freedom. I am guided by the principles of individual liberty, personal responsibility, limited government, and the rule of law. These principles are not abstract, Mr. Speaker, but they are the foundation of a society where every Canadian can flourish, free from government overreach, and empowered to shape their own destiny. As a former executive in the steel industry, I have seen firsthand how bureaucracy strangles workers and small businesses. I am here to fight for them, cutting red tape, slashing unfair taxes, and making government work for people, not against them. You see, Mr. Speaker, the true role of government is to create the conditions to ignite the spark of that Canadian dream, empowering every Canadian to chase after their aspirations, not stifle them with heavy-handed centralized control of sectors of our economy and bureaucratic overreach. My constituents have been clear. They expect their government to deliver results, not rhetoric. On this front, Mr. Speaker, the speech from the throne leaves much to be desired. One of the major issues on top of mind for my constituents is the increase in crime. Mr. Speaker, Vaughan Woodbridge is a place where families raise their children, where neighbours know each other by name, and community pride runs deep. The rising crime fueled by the government's soft-on-crime policies is eroding that sense of security families in Vaughan Woodbridge and communities across our very country deserve. Mr. Speaker, in the throne speech, the government could have easily said they're going to get serious on crime and address this issue by getting rid of failed legislation like Bill C-5 and Bill C-75. It could have committed to introducing mandatory minimums for serious crimes and prioritize victims over criminals, but it didn't. In Vaughan Woodbridge, we have countless examples of car thefts, home invasions, break-and-enters. We've had business owners and their staff held at gunpoint, and women like Sarah who I met in Sonoma Heights, who tell me her daughter constantly feels uneasy about going out at night alone. Our York Region Police do an exceptional job and work tirelessly, but this House, it must give them the tools to keep criminals behind bars. Right. In fact, we have a moral obligation to do so, for safe communities are the foundation of a strong Canada. Mr. Speaker, a key priority for my constituents is the crippling cost of living facing our country. Whether I'm chatting with construction workers or visiting Vici's Bakery or Sweet Boutique, or I'm randomly stopped at local grocery stores like Longo's, the message is the same. Life is too expensive, and people feel that they cannot get ahead, especially our youth. During the campaign, a 17-year-old at Fortino's approached me. He said, "I can't vote, but my future is in your hands. All I want to do is get married, buy a home, and have a family." Right. And that's not a radical dream, Mr. Speaker. It's the Canadian promise. Yet far, far too many young people, it feels like a fantasy. The aspirational ideals of home ownership and raising a family should not invoke feelings of frustration and hopelessness, for they are foundational to the social contract in a great country like Canada. Our youth are our future, and for far too long, they have been ignored. Canada must have their backs, or we risk continuing our brain drain, where young talent leaves our lands for jurisdictions around the world where their money goes further, where they can have the type of life they wish to have. We must address this issue with haste, Mr. Speaker, or we will all suffer in the long run. The speech from the throne proposes implementing a brand new bureaucracy instead of cutting the red tape that's driven up cost of homes. Despite a new Prime Minister and Cabinet, the plan mirrors Trudeau's $90 billion housing strategy, which doubled prices over a decade and left young Canadians priced out. Last week, it was revealed that the Prime Minister had overseen the introduction of $500 billion in new government spending without a formal budget, a move not seen for decades outside of the COVID period. This represents an 8% increase in federal spending, with a significant portion allocated to bureaucracy, consultants, and contractors. As parliamentarians, our role is to serve Canadians. The government's proposal for a new housing bureaucracy, coupled with $500 billion in new spending without a formal budget, shifts focus away from the needs of Canadians and towards expanding an already massive government. With the current parliamentary session set to break for the summer in less than 3 weeks, there's little time left to thoroughly debate and scrutinize each significant proposal, leaving critical issues like housing and fiscal responsibility unresolved. Canadians deserve better. Conservatives are committed to putting Canadians first and would be willing to sit through the summer to ensure these matters are properly addressed, prioritizing accountability over a rushed agenda. Mr. Speaker, the time for bold action is now. I close with the words of John Stuart Mill. The worth of a state in the long run is the worth of the individuals comprising it. Let's build a Canada where Sarah's daughter feels safe, where that young man at Fortino's can afford a home, and where every family in Vaughan Woodbridge and across this country can thrive. I'm here to fight for them and for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very good. Questions et commentaires. Questions and comments. The member for Eglinton Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and congratulations to the member from Vaughan Woodbridge. As he knows, I have a great deal of respect for him and his journey here. He talked about in his remarks the increase in our budget and spending. Mr. Speaker, as someone who's from the steel industry, does he not agree with the fact that over 64% of our spending is in the form of capital spending, infrastructure spending that will use Canadian steel, Canadian wood, and Canadian labor?
Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my honourable colleague for the remarks, and I congratulate him on his election. Mr. Speaker, when we look at the proposed spending, what I found interesting about it is not even 1 week later, or not even 24 hours later, I should say, from the time they said spending would be capped at 2%, we see that it's already inflated to 8%. So I just question the fact that the government argues that they're going to be different, but yet what we see is more of the same. Thank you.
Questions et commentaires, questions and comments. Le député pour Pierre Boucher, les
The honourable member for Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for my Conservative colleague. We were talking about economic and budget issues, and we know that one of the first things that this government did, as soon as it came into this House, was to say that it would carry out tax cuts. Then it brought in new spending. It's asking for more money to run government, but we don't have a budget, and we don't know when we might get one. Probably not for a long time, not before the summer comes. So how is it that this government is asking for more money for spending, and it wants to cut taxes, and yet it's not bringing in a budget?
Before I allow the member for Vaughan Rupert to respond, there's a lot of noise in the courtyard, so it's going to remind the persons who are traveling around that they're disrupting the business of the House. But the member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Thank you to my colleague for the question. So it's an interesting question because, of course, Canadians, when they look at their budgets for their own households, they realize they have to scrutinize each and every cost item. They have to craft and propose a budget. I'm always wondering why the government feels like it doesn't have to do the same. The government absolutely, if it wants to increase the spending by $500 billion, or add $500 billion worth of spending, rather, they should definitely put forward a budget, and it's unacceptable that they don't do so.
Questions and comments? The member for King Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I congratulate my colleague for his successful campaign. My question is, we just celebrated yesterday in Vaughan the largest Italian festival. One of the things that I'm sure my colleague will agree is our grandparents taught us and our parents to live by a budget and to understand that you can't make $1 and spend 1,000. But yet, this government refuses to present this House with a budget. How can we proceed without knowing what the end result will be?
The honourable member.
Thank you for the question to my colleague, member from King Vaughan. I would like to say we had a fantastic day in Vaughan celebrating the beginning of Italian Heritage Month yesterday with its first ever Italian festival. And congratulations to the mayor of Vaughan and the city of Vaughan for putting on such a fantastic event. Now, to my colleague's question, again, I say if we want to take the matters of the public treasury seriously, if we want to get serious about budgeting, serious about improving the lives of Canadians, the government must put forward a budget at its earliest convenience. That is, in this parliamentary session. The later it delays, the more things get out of hand, the worse off it will be, the higher the cost of living crisis will become, and the more out of control it will get. Thank you very much.
Questions and comments? The member for Winnipeg North.
I'm sure members opposite will become very familiar with a program called the Build Canada Homes. Think in terms of Canadian technology, Canadian lumber, Canadian labour, and not to mention the benefits that the consumer will ultimately be able to have. This is something in which, in contrast, when the member spoke about housing, he doesn't necessarily realize that Pierre Poilievre, his leader, was the Minister of Housing, and during his tenure built 6 houses. Why should the Liberal Party give any credibility to Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives when it comes to housing?
The member for Vaughan Woodbridge has 20 seconds or less.
Thank you for the question. If we recall, Pierre Poilievre during the election campaign was talking about how to create the conditions to unleash the housing sector, not adding layers of government bureaucracy that's only going to exemplify the issue. So our plan would be to help municipalities create the conditions for development, not add more layers of government bureaucracy.